I'm David Wise. I'm the creative director at MFG, a multidisciplinary design studio in Orem. And this year, I'm excited to kick off the Ellipsis Lecture Series with a good friend, beacon of inspiration, artist designer Daniel Kent. The Ellipsis Lecture Series is a lecture series we do every year that profiles artists, designers, writers, and makers. But today, we're here to listen to Dan Kent. I first met Dan in a somewhat strange point of my life. I had just graduated from Cranbrook Academy of Art, trying to figure out exactly what I want to do with the rest of my life, and by happen chance was luckily plucked and got a job as a junior designer at Urban Outfitters, where I moved to Philly, having come from Michigan back to Kentucky. And it's there where I really met Dan and where I truly learned to be a designer and an artist. It goes without saying, like, I wouldn't be here today without meeting Dan and seeing what it's like to actually be someone who lives it and is making and constantly exploring and pushing the craft of design and art. So
you have to apply. I mean, we made a lot, but you have to apply Cranbrook.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I went from extremely conceptual studies to making 11% off Singles Day sales signs at Urban Outfitters.
It's been peppered with like some pretty probably unusual projects.
Yeah.
In the landscape of that world, right?
Yeah, like I think for both of us, and now I'll stop. I'll get off my soapbox. But I think for both of us, Urban at the time represented something really unique in which commerce and art and making and truly pushing things happened. You know, being lucky enough for Dan to give me the opportunities to take things that I studied and was deeply inspired by in graduate school and literally bring those things into the world and distribute them globally. It was like really incredible time, and it showed me the power of design and really showed me that the things that we make can have impact on people and can inspire people no matter what. Whether it's a sales board in a store in Louisville, Kentucky, or a sign pasted up in Ohio, there's always something that we can do to touch people and just to kind of keep progressing and keep improving. So
I think part of it too, which one of the things here, even the handwriting in the beginning.
Dan Kent, everyone.
When David came. When David did come to interview, as opposed to sitting there and like, let's formally look at your book and talk about your work, it was more of like, let's walk outside and just like talk about who we are kind of thing. And I think that's like throughout, leading teams in some of these places, you have to have a bit of disconnect and make sure that part of the human experience, all really kind of like knowing what you're doing, I don't know if I knew what I was doing when I went to, I'll get into it. So this is like, for me to remember, I do want to thank, Roxanne, Edelwine, and MFG, and obviously, for hosting, you for stressing me out, friends and then the friends and family and teams, clients, friends and family and teams, like teams in particular I wasn't trying to kind of like be a team leader in the beginning. It was just like I wanted to design whatever like kind of organically happened in various stages. But it's truly now like that's what I care about. Like all the work that is not just me, but in at Urban or Old Navy or fucking Backcountry or whatever. It's like these people that are so super talented within these organizations, that start off. I'm probably getting ahead of myself. But start off like really positive and like let's do this thing, let's be and like work together. To where recently, and I'm also in a weird headspace now. I'll tell you about that too. But to where it's like there's an Operation Ivy lyric of like healthy body, sick mind, which I really kind of experienced in each kind of place I've been, where it's like you have all these wonderful people and this talent and people that are really like engaged and want to do this thing. But the sick mind, interpret that how you want to, slowly fucking infests them, and it becomes like sick body, sick mind. But anyway, clients, yes, I don't know if that's a weird word, but especially when I work as Ikhoor or like personal practice stuff, really trying to make sure music packaging with artists and labels and such to really have a connection and with them and listen to their music while I'm working, whether it's like ready for it or not. And I think that's important, and I'm slowly, and at pushing 50, still figuring it out, because I think at times I just want to say yes to things, and I feel like this weirdness of like, this is probably not going to be great. And it always is kind of the case, so I have a gut feeling. Hopefully getting better at that. And mentors, I had 0. That's one thing that I wish I don't want to like go back and change anything, because I think it all matters, but I would edit it a little bit. My history, my path, and I think this whole thing is going to be about my history and path. That's important from my point of view. But there were people that influenced me and that really made an impact in small chunks, never like a whole. And a lot of times it was what not to do, really. It was like how not to behave, how not to fucking, what to take seriously and what not. The context of this is the presentation is going to be chronological, kind of just like last through of what made me kind of like who I am and how I operate. And context of my career is I just think that there's going to be some moments of like setting things up, and it might be boring or whatever, but I feel like you can look at the work all day out in the world or whatever. But I think these things here that are more personal, and maybe not interesting, but I don't care. Like it's like more personal things of like where I came from and like why I do the things I do. Okay. As I said before, do I belong here? Do I like talk about my work? No. None of this really matters. But it does in a way, I guess. For me personally, like this is what I do. This is what I think about. This is kind of how I operate day to day. If I didn't have this, you'll see in the timeline, like I didn't have this for a long ass time, so it really helps me. And showing the work's fine, and I think that's so super valid. But what could you guys take away from me doing that, like whatever? I think, and I've seen a lot of talk, and I'm like, okay, that's awesome. How did this happen? How did you get to that point? Or who did you talk to? Just more transparency, I think, and I feel like, please, like, ask questions too. I don't know. I'm just trying to be straight from here of like, this is what I did. This is what I fell into. This is how I kind of approached it. So hopefully something positive will come from this. Somebody take away something, or we can just have a conversation. And then our shared reality, whatever, take that as you will. This is here, right now, talking about fucking design, whatever. But there's a shared reality. We just need to acknowledge that in our hearts and minds, however you interpret that. Okay, so this is going to be throughout the whole thing, in 49. So throughout the whole thing, born in Rockville, Illinois, Cheap Trick's from there, it's an industrial town. It's like similar to a lot of places that I've lived. When I was doing this, I did see there was like some write-ups about the 80s and this underground punk scene. I obviously had no clue at that point. But it was a town that I don't look highly at. I don't want to ever go there again, I think, because of just like the history I've had there. But that's where I was born, whatever. Two parents who did not get along as an understatement. Good, amazing people. As I wrote here, loved, but poor, broke. Like they're just like getting by, doing the best they can. My mom was 17 when she had me, but I was like 20 maybe, super young. Great parents, but a lot of like drama. My grandparents were the same thing, just like working class, machinists, bus drivers. I have super fond memories of one set, depressing memories of the other set. But it was just like, I looked so high, I looked at my one set so highly, I think about my hand all the time. It was time they were making food, just doing stuff, doing the garden, just like positive, playing with you. And the other one was more like smoking cigarettes, drinking screwdrivers, looking out the window, talking about the neighbors. You know what I mean? So I have these two versions of that. The one person in my life, my grandma Ann's brother, my Uncle Gary, Joe Rolata, is the only person, and I didn't realize this until later in the years, that kind of did anything out in the world. Left Illinois at that point. He served in the Army for a little bit of this, and then he went to design school, taught traffic years in the Ellipsis Lecture Series program, working on a bunch of like commercial, ceramics and so-called projects with a student and not China and all these things. But I did at one point get to go up. Yeah, I still had family functions and such. Always had a very proper, very kind of like opinionated. I did get to visit him at one point in the mid-20s up in New York, stayed the night. First time I ever saw fish that had eyeballs and salt and everything working nuts. Never had one beer in my life. It was just like, this is what you do. Kind of like moderation, have a good time, have a conversation. So yeah, and then his health, kind of caught into the routine aspect. Music at the time, before I moved to Pennsylvania though, I was really listening with my parents. Music, I'm bringing up music a little bit because that's like a theme throughout. I've always either played in bands, traveled with bands, worked with bands on things, and now most recently I'm doing a lot of like music packaging. But public house music, getting all the heavy metal stuff that I could. Yeah. So that's that. So after Illinois, I was 15, I think. My dad got transferred out. He was in the printing industry at that point. KBA Modder, I think before that it was something else, but they did a lot of printing. And when he was in New York, Pennsylvania, they did a lot of money. Just quality control. He had his own issues, and he was a machinist out of Tennessee, like the worst labor situation in the South. But, so a lot of like working class, a lot of like my grandfather at one point, when I went back at some point, maybe I graduated high school, I was going to Penn State for the first time. It's like, so you're going to be one of those guys. He like kind of stuck it to me about going to college. It was strange. It hit me, but I never really thought about it. But it obviously stuck there somewhere. So Penn State mechanical engineering. My dad didn't care what I liked to do, or didn't want to acknowledge any kind of interest of mine. So it was more of like, you have to go do this because I kind of live in this world, and you can maybe make some money. I'm going to drive you to a Dodge dealer, and like this was the kind of car you can get, kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay. No, like it was just straight up transactional. Like do this, whatever. So I did go to Penn State for a while for mechanical engineering. I did well, but I just didn't. Nobody told me, and I think that's one of the things too. Is just like transfer and like talk about things. Like nobody told me what you could do with that. All I saw was like going in, you're doing this thing, and you're working in this like weird office with a pocket protector and a short sleeve dress shirt or something. Like that's not what I wanted to do. So I totally rebelled against that, and then went into just skating, music, working crazy amount of like jobs. Some here are good and bad, like climbing into electric turbines in New York County and grinding metal, and all night shift. Did that for a long time. I enjoy this, and I think it's like a full circle moment, but I did enjoy building barns and horse stables and indoor riding arenas throughout like Upper Maryland and Lancaster, that kind of area. So I did a lot of that with a small crew. Obviously at 20-something or whatever, it wasn't, I didn't see like how to keep doing this for a long ass time. But again, like I was doing that to figure out like where I wanted to be next. Like doing this to strive to buy records and have a good time on the weekend. What's my next thing? Where kind of now it's like I'm working at places like Old Neighbor or whatever, so I can just do this again. And, I'm kind of just trying to do this again, but like yeah, and then traveling with some bands, which is pretty amazing. Had a first kid, who is some kind of letterpress thing in Lancaster. Elijah, he's like 25 now. I have two grandkids, by the way. They're back in Pennsylvania. So I'm still paying these loans only because, like, for a long time I had a student bank account. I was like off the grid for a long time with like not really having like a job that's long-term enough for them to kind of come at me, not having a bank account or any assets for them to come at me. So I just avoided it forever, and then at some point it was like, hey, I got a real job, and I'm going to take all this from you. So I was like, hey, $200 a month, and that's what it's been for like 20 years, $200 a month, that's crazy. So then, going to a design school, which was like, after a couple of years at Penn State for art, I had to write, like, what are you going to do for the next 2 years? I'm like, dude, I have no idea. And again, like, nobody was guiding me. No one was giving me any kind of communication about what these, nobody had any interest of, like, really diving in. So a couple of friends of mine went to this art institute down the road. I was like, I'm just over there. I actually see what I could probably do there. So that's when I went and actually started this whole thing. Unfortunately, I didn't care about the school, so I was like at home, printing, finding things, taking workshops, and just doing the bare minimum to get by in the school because I was like, I don't care, like I'm gonna do what I can to just whatever, take what I can from it, but I'm not gonna go in there and just whatever you think. I'm not gonna go in there and do a bunch of thumbnails and talk about like polisher. I'm not going to talk about these old head designer. I'm just like, I'm doing this on the side and the things I care about, and that's the stuff that actually got me ahead. It wasn't like the school project, to be honest. I got rid of my bed at this. I haven't had a bed in fucking 20 years. I got rid of my bed in my apartment. Found an old like letterpress, like tabletop. Put shelves up with supplies. I was just like, after I started the school, just going. And again, like so. Somehow it was a scam. They fleeced a lot of people and they wiped the debt from the books. Thank you. Not a real photo, but like I did at Bradley Art, Bradley at first, and Art Institute. Meet my old lady there. It's okay. It's an old lady, as I gotta call it. It's like a wife. I'm not my wife there. I don't know, old lady partner or whatever. Super tight. Hit it off right away. She was like, by the book. I am doing everything. Like she already had a degree from Ellipsis College or anthropology or whatever. She's been here, studying Mandarin, all these things. Like, holy shit, she had it together. I was in no way together, nothing. Like I had no idea. And we hit it off, whatever. Did everything by the book. Got it, and out of school, she got a job right away. Shite place in an industrial park where she was spending 8 hours calling crime and quit and never looked back. She was like doing everything the right way and then like done. I'm doing that now. She's like doing nature education, wildlife education, and all these things. Whereas I was like in a hot tub, letting one, and just like skipping class, but doing things that I thought mattered more on the side, like doing it the wrong way, I guess, traditionally. And I'm just like stuck with it. Here's the part that you don't find online probably, but after I graduated, I had two and a half, 3 DUIs. Like York County, like it's one of those places where that's all we did was like, we go play music, go drive around, whatever, had a headlight out, whatever. So I went to York County Prison for 45 days, and then 90 days house arrest. And I could see from this gym area, there was like a graded gym. Luckily, I knew a tattoo artist was in there, so it was like I had somebody to. I could see the stoop, right? I used to smoke between classes. I was like, what am I doing, man? You know what I mean? Like, this is one of like a few, 1, 2, 3, 3 or 4 moments where it was kind of like, stop. Deafening silence. Okay, like, what are you doing? So this was important to me, I think, because I had not a lot of time, 45 days, but it felt like a lot. So just kind of like, okay, this is not what I'm about. You know what I mean? Took a lot of, drew a lot, have a whole vocabulary list of like sayings, I made things. Got really good Scrabble, which is based off the Scrabble dictionary. And my old lady killed her after that. Crushed her, and she was so pissed because I was like, hey, whatever. That's a legal word. So anyway, that was like a big, brutal turning point for me. I was like, get your shit together. You finally know, after all these years of like floundering, no direction, you finally know what you want to do, and you're like, you're good at it, and you like it, Dive in. And you're 10 years behind. I was 10 years behind. I was like 20, whatever. Yeah, so when I was on house arrest, the ankle bracelet, I was a bellman in Arts Hotel, you know, like Lancaster was a city authentic, you know, Ogden's trying to be a city authentic, you know, very milquetoast, whatever, you know what I mean? Developers from all over the country coming in, trying to get the cheapest material, building all this stuff, zero taste. So there's an arts hotel there, you know, to pretend that this is like a special place. I was a bellman there, and I did get to open the door for Wolf Blitzer and the guy from Counting Crows. So that was that. And this is like maybe a little like convoluted out of order situation, but then, you know, Lancaster versus York, Pennsylvania, was like dirt, like not a great place. Lancaster had a few universities, which brought a lot of like good like culture and things that are happening. There was like bands traveling through it. It was known at the Sugar Tank. The Boat People used to put these shows on. There was like the venue that's gone now that was there up here down. There was a lot of things happening. A lot of great bands, and it was one of those pocket places. Outside of York, I'm probably going to go on tangents here, but outside of York, there was a town called Redline, and it was a pocket of just like somehow half a dozen to a dozen people just figured something out different. You know what I mean? You know, Amanda Ross Ho and Eric Feidenberg, and like there's artists that are like doing things now in LA and like playing music, earning like there's Adrian Paulus. There's like a weird pocket of like music that nobody's heard of, interests that nobody's heard of. And the same thing was happening in Lancaster at a different time in Millersville. You know, like there's Encyclopedia American Traders, there's like Spirit Assembly. There's so many bands from that zone that were just way above and ahead of their time. It's a weird thing, man. Like pockets of how does that even happen? Especially back then. You know what I mean? Lancaster was a great place. I really liked Lancaster. I drove a truck at one point. Well, we didn't have myself. So when we moved there, out of prison, whatever, I joined Big Posters, and I was an active member there for a while. It was all kind of trash. I did pull some images that I didn't put in here, like just like earlier, you know, posters I made, because I reached out to like Trocadero. I reached out to a lot of venues, like, hey, let me just do this poster, or let me just do something, get me coming up. Before I was vegetarian, I did a cannibal poster with like pig's blood. You know, I was just trying all these different things, building my own, like with the knowledge that I got from that, building my own exposure units, my washout booths, and all these things within my home, just to keep doing it and figuring shit out. And I had zero, I had nothing, I had no money, so all this stuff is just like me, like trying to scrounge and ask people and figure out how to operate. And then I had some art shows there. Based on some screen printings and just I kind of tried to network as much as I could in that town and just keep producing things. Someone still owed me. Just one dude. I think he does like acting. He's an acting now in like a small theater. Took a poster. He's going to pay me. Same poster. Never paid me. Never paid me. What's he doing with this thing? Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I had no clue. It's so strange. So yeah. So then, like and another moment, I guess, was like having the time with the ankle bracelet or whatever, sitting in Lancaster, trying to figure out where I'm going to go next. And that's when I really started doing big things and figuring things out. My education didn't expose me to a lot, so it was just my personal kind of like interest in things. I got a friend down the road on the third floor, had this like Ricoh digital duplicator that I got of a single color. Hauled that down, brought it to my place, got like $100 or something. And then obviously the screen print set up, and then just like, I don't know what I was looking at then. Maybe Tumblr was that phase, I don't know. But I was trying to connect with other creatives out in the world. A lot of them at that point too. I was trying to get out of the world of like Midwestern design of like emblems and certain illustration styles, because I was kind of in that. I was trying to figure that out. And I was like, this is not me, man. All these people are doing it. try to figure it out. So at this time, I was going to do a magazine. I was listening to a lot of Yannis Yanakis. He has a composition called Ikhoor. So I was going to do a magazine called Ikhoor, I Hear, or it could be Ikhoor, like the blood of the gods, it could be whatever. That was the beginning of that name, and it just kind of stuck with, like Daniel Kent's pretty boring and pretty just whatever, and there's already, we talked about, there's like Daniel Kent at Pioneer Works that we get confused with each other all the time, tons of emails from like no, it's not me, whatever. So that's just like where it came from. And then I started making little zines, little books, just DIY at home with a stapler or whatever, under the kind of like label, Ceremonious People. And that's where kind of like a lot of this, and also like getting asked to do, to contribute to certain things. So a lot of these older things don't exist anymore. There's maybe a few in my at home, but always kind of sold out. And a couple times I've asked artists and photographers to give me some stuff, and I was make it. So that is just like a lot of. This is by the way, outside of Urban, there's like a big cafeteria in the dumpster, which is like full of this amazing like color and it was just so cool. So every day I just take a photo of that. Put that out. But yeah, you see some of this stuff, which is. So I just kept making this stuff with not really a care. Who cares? Like maybe sometimes there's 15, 20 of them, maybe. I think this one was one like we did together, right? Like on a little like exploration journey, going through a junkyard. Making just random things and this was no prompt, it was just me messing around, just trying to figure stuff out. Taking language from certain books and just like reworking it and remixing it and, really just exploring and like what I responded to. And I'm probably showing you maybe 7 to 10% of, as I was looking through all these old files and folders and hard drives over the years, I was like, this is insanity. And alone doesn't make so much sense, but if you see it all, actually, as I was looking through it, it's like, holy shit, there's a lot of just like stuff within these experiments. So like even microwaving glue and using like dye for clothing, manipulating that and like, baking it. All these like weird things and taking oil. I know there's a lot of just experimenting, mostly failures and nothing that really is relevant, but it was just like for me. I shared this a lot with Little Navy, by the way. This little image of us, like this struggle of this whole time trying to figure out where I was going to work. In the design school I was in, I was like, oh yeah, this studio's doing this studio's doing that over here, and then I come to find out it's just like a brother and sister just trying to get by. They're not a studio. You're not going to get a job here. They may have a project or two that is like more visible and looks good. But they're not going to hire somebody for a livable wage. So yeah, and then I was working in the healthcare system, so I worked at Lancaster General Health, making all kinds of these things, and I worked at a lot of like bad jobs. One was up in Harrisburg, which is another shite town, where sometimes I had to take my boss's dog to work. I had to wait until somebody got there to open the door, staying in this dark hallway in this industrial park. Outside my window was a cemetery. I think the first project I was doing was like, hey, Norfolk Southern is doing a traveling exhibit. We gotta make a video game. I'm like, what? So I'm sitting here drawing, I was like, I'm not gonna make a video game. Like, what do you mean? Like, just doing lecture? I have no idea. So drawing cabooses and shit, things dropping.
We knew that. I knew I left.
Got out of that. There's a theme here, like if shit gets hairy and I can't take it too much, I'll just fucking bounce. For better or for worse, financially or whatever. Emotionally, like my mother-in-law called me that time and it was probably the worst conversation I had because she found out quick. Anyway, there's another photo of this with an old Navy bag next to the guy that I didn't put that in here. And the daughter, so another moment of like, okay, this isn't sustainable. I gotta get moving. I gotta really like figure out like how to pay the rent. And it didn't happen this time, that's for sure. It took some more time. Pneumonia scare, ICU, so I was driving for a Farm Fresh Co-op, Lancaster Farm Fresh Co-op. It was an Amish run kind of scenario. And I think I brought myself out, just having Red Bulls and power bars, driving the truck around, the freezers, going across over. And then one day I was in Philadelphia driving back, and I've never felt this before, and I felt like I was gonna die. I made it back and then stayed at home for another week until I couldn't take it anymore. And I called the ambulance, and I was like, your organs are failing. I thought it was just a cold. So I was in the ICU for quite some time. I lost probably 50 pounds. So then, as another moment of reset, I guess, of like, man, you're still gonna figure this out. I've never applied for a job and gotten a job, barely get a response. It's always reaching out to somebody or saying something, or a friend of a friend, or word of mouth. So like relationship building is pretty important in my world, and not the fake kind. It's just like, having people that you really respect and think are good friends and humans. So I saw somebody say, post something about like a job at this agency, and I had already known about this agency once I was over 90 in Philadelphia. Mikey Burton, Evan Garcia, there's a lot of people that were kind of going through there at that time, and those were Dan Blackman. I was like, I don't think I can do this, but I'm going to try. Like, I even emailed Mikey Burton, I was like, you think I could work here? He's like, yeah, wherever. And then other things you figure out that nobody knows what to do. It's like all that fear and all that stuff is like, it doesn't matter. But then I went, to 160/90, which was what you would think it would be as like a pro founder-run agency. Super smart, probably some of the smartest people I know, and very heavily like interested in the creative and the output, less so about just like the day-to-day. They were trying to be sober, and they eventually did. But it was like an experience that was brutal. Like sometimes I hadn't moved to Philadelphia at this point. Sometimes I would leave there at midnight, try to catch the last train, get back home to Lancaster an hour and a half away, and then get up and do it all again, just kind of a cycle. But couldn't ask for more of like a thrown into the fire situation. And this is what I wanted. I was so happy. I was so happy that I got there, until I wasn't. This Dayton, again, I'm just riffing here, but like Dayton Flyers, I did the entire like rebrand of that athletic program and whatever, and it was like, as they all are, like, what the hell is this bond? Like, no good. They're still using it, obviously, but like, I did fly there for a one-day trip on a small plane to talk to that team. And that's another thing that 160 allowed, was like everybody who made the work presented the work, no matter who it was. Provosts, presidents, board members, like, you go in, you present the work, and I've never done that before, and it was frightening. But that builds that muscle. So I went there and was presenting something or showing them how to use the toolkit or whatever. Got back that same day, couldn't get out of the airport. I had no money in my bank account. I couldn't even pay to get out of the parking lot. So I had to call my old lady and have her mother-in-law put some money in her account. I was like, I'm like, what? I'm like dying here. I'm doing how many hours a day? Putting everything I can into this, and I cannot sustain my life, you know what I mean? Fortunately, I had no plan out. I had no plan. I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to figure it out, becoming an associate creative director here and doing that, make a little bit more, but not much. But luckily, Urban called, and I had no business being there either. I don't think I was ready to be there, but somehow they called me and we had conversations, and I went in, they talked to me, and they gave me the job. And for 3 years, I still didn't think I was the right person to be there. But the next 3 years, the 3 years after that, I was like totally ready, So I really appreciate those kind of opportunities and just like stepping up and doing the most uncomfortable, like discomfort for me. Every time, like, this is uncomfortable for me. But to do it is like kind of like another feat, you know what I mean? It just makes me better. But during this time too, and another part of all this is, with whether it's an agency that expects so much, or these bigger brands, I'm continually making the stuff that I want to make or experimenting with the things I want to do, it's always what has gotten me the next thing. The work I was doing at these places, whatever. I don't even show that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and we were talking about like how to operate within these, like just people trusting that you can operate within an agency, you can operate within like a huge brand. To me, is good enough. The work's out there, you know, and well, it's out there for a second and then gone. So again, like, how much should we put on that work? So during this time, I was doing a lot of this, whether it's like contributing to projects or making my own things or whatever, drawing, illustrating, trying to figure out like how to, like a visual language for me moving forward. And I've known that now that I can't stick to one thing, it's just got to kind of always evolve. But it's kind of something that interests me, and whether it's bad or good, I have to just figure something new out. This guy here, so that's when the Pope visited Philadelphia. This is a big mural I did in the window. There's some innuendo there. So urban. There's, again, like maybe 7% of this work is like, I'm not barely showing anything. There's so much out there. Even like the consumer doesn't see. It's like small pockets at a location or small pockets of an event. The best of the work I think we did was not just like the broadcast work. It was like the smaller moments that most people didn't really respond to. And this is where you kind of also get into all the designers and the copywriters and all the people that were a part of this thing. You know, I do my best to direct or help in that way and insulate them from whatever is happening. But this truly is like in the moment, it's whatever. And I always tell like, teams or maybe whatever, like perspective, like, yeah, this billboard's stupid, but like how many people are seeing it in New York? You know what I mean? Like, there's a perspective. That's where your work is going out there, no matter how stupid it is doing something. But perspective, like when we were there, we were just kind of, it was a playground, just making stuff, and it was like almost like budgets didn't really matter, and like ideas were appreciated, and like
until they were
until
it did matter.
Yeah. And from right here, it's like but you could just do things, and there was an art room, and there was like materials, and it was just a place to really, in prototyping spaces where you can go and play and like construct things. So here is like really, you know, you could say I'm like, you could like summarize my career in a way of like singer-songwriters and mall stores, kind of. But once you dive into this world and understand all the pieces of it, how everything operates from retail to e-com to labels and cut and sew and all these things, and you do it for long enough, you're going to do it again somewhere else because that's what you kind of know, you know, unless you get the opportunity to kind of totally go outside of that. But you know, the books and all the physical objects we made here were pretty amazing. Probably way more effort on some of this stuff and complication than needed to be, but has it been like 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Who knows and then usually some more publications. I did data briefings for the record. Like, there was a whole music department. Like, when I joined, there's maybe 2 people that were part of the music department, then they exploded into maybe 8 to 10. Yeah, after Spotify and all this stuff.
Absolutely massive. Yeah.
And then back down to almost 0, which is wild. Mixtapes, one of the more interesting projects. There was a whole series prior to this in jewel cases, right?
Yeah.
Or, what do you call those things?
With the J cards?
J cards, yeah. A whole series of those, and then, you know, some more complex ones. Oh, so I guess this is a theme too, maybe throughout going to urban in 2015, coming off of like a really kind of experimental era, I think, models with no eyebrows on catalogs, shave off. It was a very probably not consumer friendly or large approach. And I think new leadership came in, as it always does. New leadership came in, had different ideas, so it was like a reset, washing all that away and just having a foundation. Because I don't think before they had really any kind of real brand standards or anything. It was like you could write urban outfitters in any way possible.
That was the standard, yeah.
But then we were franchising overseas. We had a UK office. Things were getting a little bit more grown up. So we did have to develop a very loose and simple and foundational kind of brand standard manual. That's it over there. It's hard to see. I have physical copies, but even that, it wasn't just printed. It was like printing on one side of the paper to reveal, an image or a logo, printing on the other side. So all throughout it, it was always like this transparency thing happening, and that went into stationery. It was a whole thing throughout, which it's hard to do in these kinds of brands, even here probably. Opened up a bunch of spaces, the space in Austin, LA. Remember this?
I remember this project, yeah.
Just holding big events and then working with brands and labels and such. And at this point, I recognized a lot of names. At that point, I was like, who are these people, man? But there was a lot of early, because of our music team, Cordian and Drew, knowing who's who. But it's all physically produced, man. It's invested in. This was a denim book. I just happened to find some stickers and totally overtake it. This is during the urban time that our friend Nick Massarelli used to do this first last thing. And this is another moment of contributing and made the cover or whatever. And this was just like a print gun that was at Urban, just like print gun art or whatever, and imagery that I had banked up. I always collect things, not for a purpose, but for a future purpose. So whether it's imagery or just like ephemera or objects or whatever, because I know at some point I'll probably use them. Also reaching out to venues and theater companies and places that would bring in artists. So again, this is me trying to get into that world. And this is where I started doing more with musicians and in that world. You see masks for a show, as part of the show. More books. I will say, my partnership with Resolve for a few years, made 3 or 4 or 5 things together, and then I also paid them to make things for me. Resolve was a rad place. I would go there and stay the night and just work in the studio all night. But this is a cool project because Seb and I would just go on a trip to West Virginia, just some similar things that we did, and just kind of collect these ideas and just want to put it out into a format that was interesting to him. Because after you're doing that so much, you want to find interest. And then we also, in this case, took all the masters or whatever and pulled them all out, saved them, and then just made marks with them throughout. So we made posters, 100 posters, 50 posters. On the back side was just a custom thing from the blue ink that was used in the book. More poisonous experiments in my microwave. This one's out there. There's a few left of those, but this is me reaching out to Ars Nova and making things. And the beauty of that was at that point, he ended up starting to pay me, but at that point I was like, I actually don't want any payment. I just want to do what I want to do, and I want no input, no opinion. So this started here. It was like a good poster, and I just slapped a sticker on it. I started working on this Julius Eastman project there. That kind of fell through, and my eyes got a little bit more watered down. I did this whole Red Bull Philly 2017 thing. I almost bailed on it because it was Remember that? So there was like featuring a lot of like the music and artists in Philadelphia at that time. So people were seeing that at one point, and they were more like supportive. At one point, they were like supporting the arts and all this music so much. Jeff Park on the New Breed, printed that at the Urban Office, got some screens. There used to be a screen place, and again, this is like, who cares, but in that town, like it's this amazing like building, just full of screens, like hand-made wooden screens, and like it was affordable, and it was just like old dudes have been doing it for decades. Who knows if they exist anymore, man, but we use them a lot. We used to send, another note from Urban, we used to send screens to every store. And they would screen print in the stores with display artists. And so they started cutting back display artists, so cutting back budgets and everything. And that guy's like bread and butter was like hundreds of screens every season going to stores, shipping to stores. But for Graves, was an amazing exhibit at the ICA that Marksman had put on. I was lucky enough to kind of like put this together. Screen printer poster for them. Nose climb from the metallic paper, plugging in from back in. So I don't know, like that. These are the kind of things that I truly kind of care about. Moondog thing I did, Bowerbird. That one there we'll gloss over. Drama. You know, and then chopping up, like printing out, like I do this a lot, it's like one of my crutches, like I try to get away from it, was like printing things out like 10 times, the same thing, chopping them all up, and then putting them back together in a way. This was one of them. You get that like, and then scanning them in, whatever, so you get that kind of like true organic kind of distortion. So that was UO era, I think. August 2020, I sent an email out saying in like 3 minutes I'm out, I'm bouncing. And that was just because of all the effort, all the things, world events coming in. I was just done. This is like the case for like, I kind of think everybody needs like a 2 to 3 year sabbatical no matter what you're doing. You need time to step away and like reset. So this was another one of my resets, you know, president, there's like good things happening. And then this was one as well, and I was not set up for it financially or anything. I had a few freelance things going on, but that didn't pay much. There was a time when I'm like, okay, I'm going down to FedEx. I seriously need a job, you know what I mean? Like, which is fine, but like it got to that point. But I need to step away, and I've kind of felt it coming, and then, you know, after I slipped away, probably 20 other people at high positions slipped away, but I feel like it was just like one of those moments. And then I made that, which you saw there. This was a response. I quit kind of just like getting something out based on my exit. And then during that time, here's some things that I made with like friends that I've met over the years, and like, you know, just like some certain works for institutions. That was short-lived. Some interior stuff. I did do like a whole like sample kit for like, Resolve, photo shoot, illustrations, everything. So brand work. I think I'm done. I don't know, maybe not, but I kind of think I'm done doing like identities. I don't know. Brand work. I just don't know. I've had some failures in the last like 6 months, to be honest. And that's one of the reasons why I left Old Navy, I think, because 70% effort was going into these projects when I was 100%. And I just feel like there were some failures that were happening. So I needed like a reset, spend time on the things I care about. And I don't know if I don't know for me if I care about this.
What do you mean by failures?
Spending nights and weekends blasting my brain trying to meet a deadline on an identity or something, or and just not having the energy to kind of do it right, and having to present it when I wasn't ready, you know what I mean? You know, like everything comes down to time and space. Like I just wish I had more time and more space. Like more resources, sure, but the time and the space is like it's necessary for my clarity. And then that would even like more time and space would even give me more communication with the person I'm trying to have to work with, you know what I mean? So you get lost, I get lost sometimes. And then I'm kind of like, maybe this isn't for me right now. Or maybe it will be in 10 years, you know what I mean? Or who knows, but it's just one of those things, man. More books for the same person, but like Shiva's amazing. I kind of love the work we did. This is all printed Rizo too. Love the work we did for her project. Some of the books. I have a book I'm going to make with her once I get time. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, hey, I want to do this, but I can do it when I have time. It's like there's no pressure, right? And she's totally understanding of that. Some more things I did. This is all post-urban, pre the next thing. Working with the stylist and bouquet, making book cover for his project. I was texting with Miss One Hill it was the 25th anniversary, 25th of the Fuji's original album release. And there's going to be this whole thing. There's going to be this whole book associated with it. So I got sent all this amazing documentation and images and all these things. Texting back and forth and check out this book, whatever. And in the end, I did go to. I did go to the one show they played up in New York at that time. But that some drama happened, I think, and it was all just kind of collapsed. So I don't even know if they released the 25th anniversary thing or if it was special. No idea. But that project there was just whew, super fun just to go through that stuff and see it. This kind of changed the next few years, or up till now even. Again, from a friend recommending me to his people he grew up with in Wisconsin. So the Bergmans, Abby Bergman, Elliot Bergman, their entire family. I got connected with them, and I've been working with them and doing things with them for years now. But this is my first real work on a label-produced album or whatever. And then other assets, singles, tour posters. Way out of my comfort zone because a lot of the stuff before and the stuff you see on the table out there, there's kind of a point of view in a way of how I would operate for a while. This was super uncomfortable for me, drawing text, trying to figure out a little bit more psychedelic stuff, more hand work. Even though all that stuff has hand work associated with it, I think, not in a way, but this was pretty uncomfortable for me. I've always been using press type and everything, so I had all this stuff around, but yeah, lots of sketching over and over again, it doesn't make sense. And it's still kind of wonky and weird, but I kind of dig the imperfection of it. So the ball is rolling on singer-songwriters, guys. So this was fucking nothing, and I love it. Honestly, it's a world I kind of want to live and operate in. I don't know if I'm not going to go that far. This is being recorded. And here's a recent project. She just released another album, so this is another project where I'm helping with pieces associated with it. The album itself is super simple, image-based. But some merch and some invites for an event, There's a book. You guys have, there's a book, Artist Invites. Have you seen that? It's so good, man. Dang. So this was all happening still in Philadelphia. This one wasn't, because I'm just showing just where I started and this is the kind of stuff I'm working with here now. This was all happening in Philadelphia, and then I got hit up by ex-colleagues from Urban that had moved on and moved to Backcountry. And a lot of people actually from that area came out here and recommended me for Backcountry photo, video, whatever. And I was at that stage, right? There's no other option. I've never probably talked about Utah, but I was sure, let's do it, man. I'm gonna go out there and do this. It's a totally new experience. Drove across the country. Sat out in the parking lot on the first day, just kind of waiting to see if I saw Colby. I was I had no idea how to get in this fucking building. Quit smoking. I smoked the whole way. Quit smoking when I got here. I was this is a moment I'm stop smoking. And I did. And then that was kind of an awesome experience. Totally, it's in the world of urban outfitters, but not. It's a totally different kind of like customer in a way. I was there for maybe 4 months. We made a lot of cool stuff, like a lot of good photo shoots, went to a lot of places. In 4 months, there, we probably did more than I did in 3 years. A year and a half at one year. Like for catalog, some retail strategy, some shoots, some campaigns, an event up in like Wyoming. Like there was just like a lot. Shaun White, it might be in here, I don't know, but anyway. So got this pod, moved it out here from my apartment in Philly. There you go. There we are. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, this looks good. I don't know. It's, right? It's like, Lauren, like, tell me, does this look good? I don't know. Set stuff. This is got sent a bunch of stuff from like over time for Shaun White. That Ben, the amazing Ben, Queen's photographer, was like super talented dude in the studio and out. Shot a bunch of that stuff. Really enjoyed. I thought I was going to be there. I moved here. I thought I was going to be there for quite some time. You could feel some cracks though. You could feel some cracks. And then somehow, again, out of the blue, somebody, I don't know who, from I do know. It was back when I quit Urban. I did a kids safety event for Old Navy. Pop-up thing, like coloring sheets, cash, man. Like, so I did a kids safety event somehow. And I was also applying for the senior director role at that point. They hired internally. That's what it was. But then sometime after I moved out here, Old Navy hit me up again, and it was just like too good, remote, decent situation, whatever, too good to pass up on. So unfortunately, I had to bounce from Backcountry. But and when I think Old Navy's such a brief because it's so kind of like close to still, right? And also, I don't fucking burn bridges because people come and go. I can go back if people come and go. Things change. But maybe that was a burning bridge. Maybe that was But when I got there, it was like prepping for like this big 30th anniversary thing. So we were going to bring out old styles, and of all the projects, there's a few. There's a few in there that were okay. And the team there is like super amazing. I don't know if they're handling things well now, but it's an amazing team. But doing this like whole campaign for like something 94. I can't remember what it is anymore. I blocked it out. But that was awesome. And there's a whole thing associated with emotion, all these things. We had like events. Something that made me. We went to the New York Stock Exchange and had this huge thing there. I went because I don't know if I ever had that opportunity again, but it was like oil and water in a way for me. So a lot there. Part of this too, over the past year and a half, and I don't think I hit on it before. It's like I've talked about Urban Outfitters as kind of a rebrand or a brand transformation. Backcountry, I think, was going through something similar, but not so involved. Here, we hired Collins, Agency Collins, and worked closely with Brian and his team to re-envision like what Old Navy is. So a very nominal logo update, but very particular. Brand new custom typeface. I don't know if I have it here. You'll see it on the wall. I don't know if it's 100% like this is us coming out as a new brand. I think it's just like kind of peppering in, like making a big deal about it. But there was a whole 500-page brand standards manual. There was like a whole thing over a year and a half of like working with Collins to transform Old Navy from what it was to new, but still kind of like recognizing what it was, what made it successful in the past. Because there was like this there was a time of like newness. Something happened where the stores lost trucks in the stores. They lost personality. It became a white box store with laminated foam core for signage. There was like somewhere along the line, so the wrong person got in there and like said like, yeah, who cares about this stuff? We just gotta sell fucking jammies. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, about how many times like okay, that first thing about like shared experience or shared reality. Like when I'm sitting in a freaking 8 hours back-to-back Zoom, and I'm talking about Jingle Jammies for 30 minutes, or like, is this color right for Disney, or did Mickey look at this or not? Because if he's looking at it, that means you're selling. Like if I have, and there's probably like pockets full of conversations like that, and I'll call it out, and I was like, are we really talking about this thing? Does this really matter? It's going to be here and gone. Is it really going to change like the cash flow into the business? I don't know. But and again, we get real here. There's a lot of like insecure people in these places. There's a lot of people that are indecisive, fear-based decision making or lack of decision making. When it's really easy, it's really easy to do this. And again, it doesn't really matter. But the teams that are in place and the people that we hire can do the work. Just clear out all the whatever, the bureaucracy. Anyway, so that's and doing this, 8 hours of Zoom meetings, most exhausted I've ever been, building barns, whatever, like doing all these other jobs, working at Urban, very taxing, but I wasn't dead to the world. I was dead to the world every day. Not so much even probably because of the conversations, but it was just like staring at this screen that I asked for. I want to be remote, right? The inefficiency and the meetings and when am I going to actually do the work I need to do? All along with like working on side projects and renovating like and building sheds and shit and shooting coops and stuff. So I had to fit all that in and family and like having breakfast. It just got to me where it's like time for a reset, sabbatical, whatever. I made it to March. I made it past like a review session. By the way, I was told we're all replaceable by this new guy. You're replaceable. I was like, this is a review, dude? I thought it's like exceptional every time, and like I'm holding it down when all you people are kind of like being fired and shit. Whatever, dude. So it was time for a change, and that's kind of where I'm at now, where I am focusing on. I'm trying my best to teach every year. We'll do it. We'll figure it out. But also like working on my own things. I'm consulting, for Stance Socks, which is helpful financially. So there's like things I'm doing, peppering in, just like income and communication with people. So I'm not just in my tomb upstairs in my house where I've just been sitting. Yeah, so that's kind of the thing, and I do want to talk a little bit. Like I didn't really show work. I don't think in a way I would normally maybe do it. But there are projects where they're not efficient, but it's like what I care about and want to do, and like the ideas are there, and I'll spend a lot of time on it. When it's probably not like wise financially or whatever, but certain people, like good people and people that are like really into what they're doing and making good things and are open to ideas. Like, so a couple years ago, we were going to do this Brooke and Zach's class, and I was at that point interested in like grids and weaving and lace and the idea of like that kind of situation. And that was when I wrote my book until I went downstairs and they were giving away maps and they were giving away all this stuff downstairs in some room as I was walking around, just kind of getting out of the room or whatever. I got a bunch of maps, and then I made the book instead. I switched it and made the book of all the maps of like Powell with images of rural Massachusetts and all these things. So I switched that. I never approached the lace thing. But this came up, and Kate's music is really ethereal and haunting and dusty, and she does wear a lot of like sheer things and lace, and so she and I were talking about it. And by the way, the photo of her hands there, that existed prior. It was all there. So I was trying to figure out a way to not be lace, but kind of represent lace. Because I didn't want it to be just like lace. You see that. But very ornamental and kind of delicate and lacy, but using like Caslon kind of like this was a kind of inspiration of like printing and such, and taking like elements from this, and then just taking bit by bit. So it took me a while, like right here, I was almost making the whole thing. I was like, what are you doing? Make a quarter, and then modify where you need to modify. So here I made a quarter of it. Here it was like, you can see some things around my I was kind of making a lot. And it was like thousands of Photoshop layers. I'd get to a certain point, and then I have to collapse them all down. And then it would be thousands. Just moving these little bits and knobs here, like these circles and stuff, to make all these little pieces. But it was like super zen to me. I was listening to music, putting this on. I had no sketch. I was just kind of building it. It was kind of growing organically. But that's kind of stuff, man, like, that's super interesting to me. And the tattoo one, by the way, 2 on the nose. Like, I made it doily, you know what I mean? Like, what the hell? But it was a lot of work, so I was like, okay, this is one of them. Like, we learned from this. That was his first sample. Should I just keep, I don't even know what's going on. And then my friend, Natalie Bergman's brother, Ellie Bergman, reached out one day. There's this band, Alone. They were, like, Beck was looking at them, Third Man was looking at them. You know, he was like, I want to put them out right now before things happen. So he was like, let's do a label, Figueroa Records. It's a studio in LA, on Figueroa Street. So it's like, let's just put some 45s out or 7-inches out or whatever, and build this kind of like label. We haven't made anything since. I'm hoping that eventually, because I think that the series or like the collection makes it more impactful than just a couple things. But we developed this, and then, which I'm really jazzed about a lot of the things that are happening here. This is going to go out in the world, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up doing the LP and such, but I mean, a lot of opinions get involved with it. It becomes a big thing. Some of my gesture and like art and things that I've made in the past kind of find their way into a story in this magazine. You go through this thing, this one, so that was fun, just like working with something that I haven't done in a while. That's that book I was talking about earlier, it was that class, super jazzed about. I won't do this anymore, I don't think. This was nothing physical, maybe posters, but this was probably the worst part of music kind of marketing situation because of the world of tech around us. So you have an idea, you make a thing, but it has to live in like 1,000 different rectangles. 1,000 different like versions based on where it's at. Like here's a singular venue, here's all the venues, here's a blank one, and and I just get lost in this back and forth. It's actually this was canceled, the date's changed here. You have to go back and change all the other venues. You know what I mean? So this one, while I enjoyed working with them, it just kind of broke me. And this one also was like multiple languages. So beyond all the pieces, multiple languages for all the pieces. it was chaos. I'm showing the color version that I enjoyed. Everything else was really made was another Shiva book. This was kind of a hack because of budget. So it's a newspaper club with a white booklet stapled, but within it there were sheets that were full sheets with a little cut line. So once I got them, because I wanted these little half sheets in here with language. So once I got them, I just went through all of them and just like chopped every single one throughout. Recent out in the world, Yaya Bay, Drink Some Water, amazing label. I will say like Molly at Ghostly, so Molly's our director at Ghostly, and Drink Some Water, and I think she's in the Secret Group. She does a lot of things in that world. Probably one of the best labels and people that I've ever worked with, because she knows the world. She knows what I need, you know what I mean? She knows like what it takes. So anytime, whether I say I'm not doing anything anymore or whatever, anytime Molly calls for something, I'll absolutely do it because it's like super creative and different and it runs so smoothly. So the whole record, double record for this one. Here's some posters. Like the there's like a huge poster, fold out poster. This. I don't know, backside, front side, whatever, inside the album too, which is pretty rad. Yeah, that's awesome. Too bad, right? She starts a lot of videos, like runs through all night, and then she comes to a video. So it's like true, like, supporting things that I support in the world and saying it vocally, which is awesome. Julie Byrne, now I'm going to just like, and this is this, but whatever. It's like things that I really enjoyed doing that weren't me, out of my comfort zone of like this kind of typography or bordering and ornament. You see a lot of the ornamentation, I guess, in response to, it's kind of like the world. And there's like a William Morris transcript in that box I have out there that talks about ornament and like how it relates to a bit of neighbor and things like that. But so not that I think I'm kind of past this phase a little bit, or I want to be. I want to kind of move back into something else, but not to say this is like super ornamental, but you can see with the frames and like things that are happening in the typography and stuff, like it's pretty expressive that way. This is maybe a little bit more in line with me, just like with me, I think. Still some ornament, still some things in there that I've stolen from certain like old books. And the freedom here, like I couldn't do these things together for a lot of people. They're like, hey, let's do this. This is cool. I'm like, cool, man. Let's go at it. This one here, old like, furniture from like whatever this stuff is, like old furniture from like leather pressing and shit. I'm just using in a digital way. This one, probably one of my, not maybe the. I don't know, I'm trying to think, like, I would do this kind of stuff all day for many reasons. For Dima and Dubrovka, who I was working with at the RCA and the city design program in the architectural school. But the program itself, what they're doing in the world outside of even this, the topics within this program, and given it, it's heavy, and it's a very heavy kind of class, I think, in a way, but also it can't just be that. It has to do its thing. It's like messaging something, it's still having some kind of something behind it. So I did, and this is a little like looking at, I do this a lot, and sometimes it's seen, sometimes it's not. It could be stupid, it could be not stupid, wherever, but it's helpful for me to have like a very focused kind of nugget to build upon. And with borders and checkpoints, there's a lot here with the word point, really, which influenced kind of like the typography, and then the typography and the parentheses influenced a lot of the patterns and gestures within that. So, and then I start the presentation with kind of this situation. Working with this, excluding something or including something, either way, with the parentheses. Looking at like things of that world and architecture and materials and fears and everything. Building all out of the parentheses. Building an icon system that can evolve and be used for certain programming. And then having these patterns below fences, rivers, all these things, just based on that one riff, So the intent was, and I'm not sure, because I'm not there, if it was executed, so a lot of it was social posts and how people use that way. But the intent of all this was to be printed at the space and have a background layer on top of another layer, it's like a layering thing as well. I know their semester just started recently too, and I reconnect with them. But super fun, super amazing project. Like when I say I don't want to do like logos and identities, I don't consider this that so much. I feel like this is something else. All that was during Old Navy. At one point, I made this before I quit. I just knew that someday I wanted to use this photo, so now that they're dead for the change, kind of, and then there's this thing here, which is like the Nectar Collapse, which was an impact to a human experience and trauma. This was just releasing this after the Old Navy experience. Just clean slate kind of scenario. Yours is destroyed. Anyway, hopefully that was like helpful, and I hope you have questions or anything, or like, I don't know.
I have a question. So the presentation ends at 49. What do you think 50 looks like?
50?
Yeah.
Well, I gotta get a job next year. I gotta get another job. No, I don't know. I'm not sure, man. Like, a little bit of music, back in the little bit of music again, maybe. That's kind of the thing, though. It's like, all the things you made, are still making, right? There's 2 records that are coming out of it that aren't, well, one may be public, but I want to continue doing that. I'm teaching. But yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I can't right now see myself thrown into another like huge place and the expectations that kind of requires. But I think I'll be able to next year, 2026. Right now I'm just kind of laying low and just trying to reset. Like my brain is scrambled, honestly. Like my brain is completely scrambled. There's times I can't think of words for some reason. But this is all part of it, right? Just talking about shit and whatever. I still am in contact with every team, mostly, or at least members of those teams that I've ever worked with because we form connections beyond, whatever it was. I don't know. We'll see, man. I don't know.
How do you do it all? I feel like seeing like being dad, husband, working multiple different jobs, projects, and all that. I feel like your capacity that you have is so much. Like, how do you go about your day? Like, I think as someone who's like starting in their career, who's like, I want all these different projects and blah blah blah. Like, how do you manage it all?
I guess I do until I don't, really, right? Like, I mean, from the beginning, this is what, like, way back in, like, even like grinding metal inside of a thing, it was just kind of, this is what you do to move forward, I guess, in a way. Like, I need to finish this complete well by this time. Not that relates so much, but it's just kind of, it's like a work ethic thing, and also an insecurity thing of like, I'm old, I'm 10 years behind most people. I need to catch up, and I kind of need to prove to a lot of family and friends that this isn't just like bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's all, most of it's just like self-motivation. Like, I'm just motivated, but then you do it to a point, and then you do have a breakdown. And a lot of people that I've worked with have breakdowns, and they have a year. They're losing hair. They're seeing doctors, and that's just unfortunate that it has to happen that way because it's, again, it's easy. It doesn't have to be that way. Yeah, you just keep going on. I've actually watched more television now than I have in my entire life. Like, I didn't have television. I was just constantly, I need to be doing this thing. And even if it was just like scribbles. I had a scribble era, man. I didn't show a bunch of my scribble era. I had a scribble era, gesture era, with this like texture and this weird shit. And I was like, I probably should stop scribbling. I probably should stop doing it. It's just like, what's the next thing? Yeah, I don't know what it is. Triage too, of like, what's priority? What do I have to get done? And then go to the next thing, get that done, I have to side my shed by winter, so that's on my list, that kind of stuff. But, and also I have a very forgiving, and one thing about my relationship with my old lady is we're 2 very independent people living together and loving each other and our daughter, but we're all very independent, so she focuses on her thing, I focus on my thing, my daughter does her thing, but we have moments of connection, which is, I'm not, like, we got married, like, hey, you want to get married? Sure, let's go to our friend, your mom's friend with Mayor, get married. It's not going to be this way. You know what I mean? It's like, efficient. We got things to do. Then my son in particular, as he was born in a very strange time in my life, he got the bum deal, man. My daughter is around it, I'm around more, but back then, it was even harder for me to kind of focus on family with him. Different lady, too, by the way. It was a different time, and he kind of suffered there. You know what I mean, in a way? But my daughter now is around all the time. We're like all best friends. I'm more confident and settled into what I'm doing, even though I don't know what's coming next or how I feel. But it's just like, yeah. I was never a public speaker. I was never anybody that could stand up in front of anybody, but being forced to, at the agency, being forced to give quarterly talks at Urban, where there's like 400 people in the room and who knows online or whatever, super uncomfortable. Going into talking with teams about direction. Like, there were so many things that I had no business, no experience in. I was just doing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whoever, yeah. Shout it out.
Okay. So it seems like graphic design has become very like ubiquitous within marketing. And seeing that through your presentation, a lot about like just more like money-making scheme, and as it will like really kill the creativity and the environment that it. I'm curious for you, what direction, what do you see as like shimmers in the design field that make you feel like hopeful that it's not going to be that way?
If you're looking for hope in our,
Yeah.
in our discipline, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be negative, but there has to be a human conversation like this, and people like maybe rebelling against techno-fascist, bullshit, environment-killing AI situations. Even outside of our discipline, that stuff is bad for the world. You ever watched The Dead Don't Die, or This Isn't Going to End Well kind of situation? This isn't going to end well. You know what I mean? We're giving away our power, and we have over the years, and it's not, you have CMOs saying it's just a tool. It's not a fucking tool. We have people like Nick Knight even saying like, embracing this thing. And the last person I was like, yeah, it's just a thing we use, like a camera. It's not. We're giving us power away to 6 people, terrible people. You know what I mean? We're already giving everything else away, our identities, everything. Like, do we have to give this away too? Like, you know, it's insane. And if you're building a data center that's taking up much energy, who knows about water, much energy of the entire state of Wyoming? Come on, man. Like, I don't know. I'm just for real. Like, and that's another meeting I had. I was off-site in Las Vegas doing this walkthrough for this big event we were having for a lady, and I had to have a call with like their head of AI, and I'm like, I can't take this seriously, man. One, I don't believe you. Our jobs are going away. Certain people's jobs. And two, have you actually looked into this beyond like how you can use it as a tool to fucking like crush people? You know? Anyway. Sorry, but there's hope. I mean, but there's like, we're all doing it. There's people coming out of school doing it. There's like old heads doing it, trying to at least, you know, just being real about it, being transparent about just like the world. You talked about like the paradox of the commercial artist or whatever. Like, it's truly just like this difficult thing to navigate. You know, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know.
That's what I mean.
So like, what are some pitfalls that you've seen within yourself and then amongst like your colleagues throughout your career that you recommend to us or just like young designers in general to avoid? Like some real common ones, but some pitfalls that you've seen people get really stuck in.
Comparing yourself, this is the easy one, comparing yourself to others, looking at other people's work and trying to be that. You know? If you say that's out there, you have to be aware of it. There's reference points out there, but like, how can you make yourself your own? I think people get in our own heads too much, and also are too precious. It's not that precious, right? Like, let it be. And I think that's where personality comes out. When there's warts and moles on shit. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of designers that I've tried to over the years. They're great at what they do, but they're not able to sit in a room and present work confidently with authority. You know, there's like you can smell it right away if you're not like, and then the trust goes away quickly, and then all the work you're doing for the next 3 weeks, there's no trust there until you kind of build it back up. So I feel like as a skill, one, how do you go from design school, or how do you start as a young designer and navigate the world financially through like making connections, and who do you reach out to? Like, we talk about it all the time. It's still like, who's the gatekeeper here? Is it art directors, editors? Is it who is it? And then try to make connections with those people. I don't know. Is there anything there? Like,